What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel. It's your host, That Boy Retro. On this channel, we'll be discussing pop culture from all sorts of different decades, such as the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So if you're into the whole retro thing, please feel free to subscribe. I'll be trying to push out new content at least once to twice a week. Today we're going to jump back to the early 2000s. The early 2000s were honestly one of my favorite decades of all time because you had a happy medium between real life and life on the internet. You know what I mean? The internet was just starting to pick up, social media was just starting to take off, and there was a happy medium between both worlds, real life and the internet. I can keep going on and on about the early 2000s, but today I want to focus more on a video game console from that decade. The PS2. Honestly, in my opinion, this was the greatest PlayStation of all. I think it's when video games first kind of started to evolve. Their overall graphics were really starting to improve, and the gameplays were starting to get insanely crazy and in depth. You start to have new games pop up like GTA 3, Vice City, Street Volume, all that stuff. Honestly, back then, it wasn't really a focus on online gameplay. So your story modes were so interesting and so cool. I want to talk about my favorite game on this console. Metal Gear Solid 2. Honestly, this game was the best game ever. Like, if I had to pick one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life, I would definitely say Metal Gear Solid 2. For its time back in 2002, this game was honestly insane. The graphics were so dope. The gameplay was insane. It was so cool, like all the different things you could do in the game. The storyline, dope. The characters, dope. There wasn't a single flaw in this game, and anyone who's played it knows exactly what I'm talking about. The characters in this game are honestly legendary. Like, they made the storyline so interesting, and there's really no other way to describe Metal Gear Solid 2 other than the fact that it's legendary and epic. The characters are honestly so dope. They're all unique and different, and whoever thought about the characters is honestly like a genius. So you had Solid Snake, you had Fat Man, you had Vamp, you had Raider, Liquidus Snake, and Shalashashka. Even the names of all these characters were cool. Honestly, Liquidus Snake and Shalashashka were the dopest villains in the video game, and I don't know, they added a lot to the story. Basically, this is what the gameplay looked like. You're running around in third person, and then if you wanted to shoot somebody, it would be in first person. I think this was one of the first games I played that was actually like that. So it was a little hard to get used to, but once you got used to it, it was honestly a lot of fun to play. There was so much detail in the game, like when you went into storage rooms with food, all the different types of food and stuff would be packaged, and you'd be able to read the packaging and all that, and it was just so cool. The graphics for their time were insane. Like, you gotta remember, this game was made in 2002. It was always fun when you were able to point your gun at these soldiers and they would freeze, and then you could tranquilize them and drag their bodies and hide them places, or you could wait till they woke up and then beat them up. It was honestly a lot of fun. I loved taking their bodies to the edge of like the ship or whatever, or the big shell, and then when they'd wake up you could beat them up and throw them over the ledge. That was always such a fun thing to do in this game. You had two different maps for this game. The first half was on the ship. It was more dark and gloomy. This part of the game wasn't too long. The story mode was a little shorter, but it was a lot of fun still. You got used to how to play the game. The other half of the game was on the big shell. I think it was like an oil rig or something. I'm not really too sure what it was, but it was in the middle of the ocean. This half of the game was honestly a lot more fun. It was sunny, it was bright. All the cool characters are pretty much introduced in this section of the game. If I had to pick between the ship missions and then the big shell, I would 100% go with the big shell. For the ship, this was probably one of my best moments for that map, when Shalashashka came out with the Russian guy, and they pretty much said they're going to take over Metal Gear. And then when he got questioned about it, he said he's with the Lale Lule Lo, which is the shadow government, the Patriots. Honestly, as a kid, this game was very confusing, but it was really cool how they kind of brought in the whole shadow government aspect. I feel like this game is what got a lot of us into conspiracy theories, and I also believe that the creator of the game had some connections on some high levels, because this game was definitely trying to teach us at a young age about what the government hides and what could really be out there and all that. At least that's what I believe. You also first get introduced to the Metal Gear in this little section of the game. You get a glimpse of what it actually looks like. Honestly, I was never really a big fan of how the Metal Gear looked. I thought it could have been a lot cooler, but the overall concept was still cool. How you can get inside it and control this huge piece of machine. I want to start talking about some of the characters on the big shell and some of my favorite missions. So Vamp missions were always my favorite. Vamp was one of the members of Dead Cell. Basically, Dead Cell was this group created by the Patriots or the Shadow Government, and they were pretty much this group of supernatural characters almost, you know what I mean? Vamp speaks for itself, was a vampire. He was immortal, and every time he popped up in a side mission, even if you weren't battling him one-on-one, it was always cool to have him come in the mission. And I always enjoyed every little moment he entered the story mode. His mission was fun when you actually got to battle him. He was jumping around all over the place and you're trying to kill him. It was a hard mission for me at the time. And as a kid, I honestly thought Vamp was one of the most badass characters in this whole story. Fat Man was such an interesting character in this game. The way he dressed, the way he talked, his overall persona, just everything about him was so interesting. He wore the bomb outfit, the Juggernaut outfit, and he was just such a cool and interesting character. I feel like he added a lot to this game. Honestly, like Metal Gear Solid 2 wouldn't have been the same without Fat Man. His missions were a lot of fun. Even before you battled him one-on-one, you had to go around defusing bombs. And then I remember when you did battle him, it was honestly a hard mission. He was running around on his rollerblades and you had to try and shoot him and at the same time defuse a bunch of bombs. And at the end of the mission, when you did kill him, he said he left one big bomb that could destroy the entire big shell. And it took me forever to realize that the bomb was right underneath him. Overall though, dope character, and I'm so happy they added this guy to the game. This mission was a lot of fun. It was when you had to save E. She was trying to walk across the planks and you had to make sure she didn't get shot, and you were given a sniper. It was pretty tough because you had to make sure you were holding the gun steady and you were able to kill everyone who was trying to get E. At the time, honestly, it was a pretty tough mission, but overall the vibe was dope. The sun was setting, you were kind of more toward the water of the big shell. It was a cool setting, a cool mission, and I honestly really enjoyed it. It was kind of sad at the same time because you knew that the game was kind of coming to an end at this point. You can't tell me this wasn't one of the saddest video game deaths ever. Honestly, when E passed away, don't lie to yourself, you were low-key sad. The way they played out this scene was honestly so good. Like, the best acting, especially for its time. Like, you gotta remember, man, this game is very, very old, and the way they played this part out, it was so dope. Honestly, I low-key shed a tear when I was a kid and I saw this happen, you know? It was a sad death, and we all know we got hit hard by this death. Battling the Metal Gear. Honestly, the whole game was hyped up to this point, and finally you were able to face the Metal Gears one-on-one. It was kind of overwhelming because I wasn't expecting to battle so many all at once, and when you finally did get one of them down, another one would jump in. As a kid, for the life of me, I could not figure out how to beat this level, and it was really frustrating. And back then you didn't even have YouTube to try and figure out or watch a video on how to beat this, right? So for weeks at a time I struggled. Eventually it made me hate the game, but then my older cousin came over, he taught me how to beat them, and this mission was honestly a lot of fun. The whole trick behind it was you had to shoot them in the leg, they'd open up their mouth, and then you can get a lot of damage by shooting them in the mouth, and it was pretty dope, not gonna lie. The final boss, Solidus Snake. Honestly, you can't tell me that this guy wasn't a straight badass. The way they made this character and the way he acted and everything, this guy was a thug. He was very intimidating, he was very scary, and he played the part very well. His overall look was so dope, and as a final boss, I'm not gonna lie, you know, they did a great job. The whole octopus arms and the double swords, like, this was a cool final boss type look. Final mission of the game. You're in New York. I'm pretty sure it was New York. You're on this rooftop. You're battling Solidus Snake. Honestly, this mission was pretty hard when you're trying to battle him with the swords and stuff. It was not the greatest mission. I honestly didn't think it was that fun for the last mission. It could have been a lot better. It was a cool concept and idea, but the mission itself wasn't that much fun. Overall, you knew the game was ending after this mission. It was low-key sad. The whole vibe was kind of sad. It was like gloomy, it was dark, and when you beat Solidus, the credits started playing and you were sad. You knew the game came to an end. This awesome story, this awesome game that you're so attached to is now over. It was almost like getting your your heart broken for the first time. You know what I mean? Metal Gear Solid fans know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyone who isn't a Metal Gear Solid fan will think I'm talking crazy right now, but no, seriously, it hurt just as much as breaking your heart for the first time. And I love this game. To conclude this episode, I just want to say Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite games of all time, and my childhood definitely wouldn't have been the same without this game. So thank you to creators of Metal Gear, and thank you for PlayStation 2 for making my life amazing. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please subscribe. Thank you.